Hello, it's John Heaton and I'm here with my friend Richard Mugashi again.
Hey, how you doing?
And we're doing a review of The Cure, Disintegration from 1989. So it's a rare foray into the 80s for me. Don't often see 80s videos or anything more recent from me, but I had the good fortune to see The Cure in concert last October in Budapest, and picked up a few of their albums in preparation for that concert. And Richard's a pretty big fan of The Cure. I think you probably know more about them than me, so
If that's telling anything, but
I'll just show you the vinyl.
Oh yeah, that looks great.
Yeah. So when the vinyl originally came out, it was a single album, and it didn't include, I think it was Last Dance and Homesick.
Okay.
But now it's been made into a double, and the lyrics here, and this particular lineup of The Cure is Robert Smith on vocals and guitar, and Simon Gallup on drums, bass, Boris Williams on drums, Paul Thompson, spelt P-O-R-L, interestingly enough, on guitars, and Roger O'Donnell on keyboards, and then interestingly Lawrence Tolhurst is credited as other instrument. Apparently during these sessions he was a little bit suffering from substance abuse, should we say, and he was there at the sessions, but I don't think he was contributing a whole lot. This is what I read, and it was quite a tension-filled session. So, Richard, initial thoughts on this album?
Yeah, a little bit about the background. Robert Smith was pretty depressed before this album, and probably has many reasons to be depressed, but one of the main reasons was that he turned 29 before this album, and it made him realize that he's gonna be turning 30 1 year later, and and then he figured that all the great rock and roll albums and great works that stood the test of time have been completed by artists who well before they turned 30. So that thought kind of frightened him, and he thought that he should definitely write something that would stand the test of time. So Robert Smith consequently began recording on his own without the other bandmates, and after that he played the initial demos to the rest of the band, and he said that if they don't like it, he's gonna record it as a solo album, which apparently they did like it, and that's why we have this masterpiece, I would say, in front of us. And maybe a couple of words about the reviews and the reception before we go to the track by track. And I'm just gonna read this out for you because I think they are really adept, some of the reviews, and they capture the essence of the album pretty well, and some of them are pretty witty too. So the first one is by the BBC. Disintegration is like taking a long bath in someone else's despair and finding it cathartically enjoyable, which is a funny one. Okay, so then Sputnik Music writes, you might be crying in your soup by the time it's all over, but you'll be glad that you did, because this record is one of the best sad albums ever made. Each track naturally flows into the next, leaving the impression that you've gone on a very hypnotic journey at the very end. Pitchfork writes then, Disintegration does not scatter. It's a single grand dance, continual epic trip into the core stuff The Cure did well. Listening to Disintegration is more like standing in the middle of some vast empty space, the kind of ocean or plain where you can see the horizon in all directions. And finally, one from Billboard, no one needs to check the almanac to see what the weather was like on May the 2nd, 1989, the day The Cure released its 8th studio album. Once copies of Disintegration started hitting the CD trays and turntables, the skies turned grey and the rain began to fall. and sad boys and girls everywhere soaked it all up like sponges. So, well, what does that tell you, right? Well, I guess if you're looking for you know happiness and sunshine and shallowness, probably this album is not the right pick for you. Um,
Or The Cure in general.
yeah, the Cure in general, I would say, but this album in particular. Um, so actually, yeah, as far as commercialization is concerned, this I think to this day is their commercial peak, and this is the album that actually took the Cure to 50,000 seat stadiums in the U.S. and they really became a household name after that. Oddly, the band was not that, and especially Robert Smith wasn't that comfortable with all that success. But yeah, it's a true masterpiece, I would say. And yeah, John, anything else maybe here?
Well, I think we should just go through the tracks. I mean, I guess the title says it all, really, Disintegration. And I do remember turning 30 and being quite depressed about it myself, comparing what I had achieved by the age of 30 to what John Lennon had achieved, for example, and feeling quite thoroughly miserable as a result. So comparisons are odious. And anyway, Robert, yeah, he went on to do some of the best work after he was 30, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Wish is your favorite album, isn't it?
Yeah, Disintegration is my number 2 favorite album by The Cure, and Wish is my number 1. So I think he had plenty of stuff still in him after he became 30. So
yeah, so let's go through the songs. So Plain Song is the opener. It's a kind of moody, not instrumental, but it starts off like many Cure songs. Quite often there's like a minute or two of just instrumental before the vocals come in. I've noticed that it's kind of their trademark, and I quite like it. Roger O'Donnell is pretty prominent on keyboards on this track. They perform it live quite often, and it's not outstanding opener, but it's pretty decent. You like it?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with John. I think it sets up like this gloomy, dark mood of the album pretty well. But it's not my favorite track of the album by any means. I think my biggest issue with it that it lacks, I think, character, or well, compared to the other songs, I would say obviously it's relative, but the melody is a bit too slow, the lyrics are a bit too vague, and Robert Smith's voice is a bit too lackluster, I would say, and the whole thing just feathers a little bit in nowhere. But I mean, it's an okay song. It's not a bad song. Again, it sets up the mood for the album pretty well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then Pictures of You follows, which for some reason was not featured on their Greatest Hits album. I thought.
Wasn't it?
I don't think so. Not.
Maybe not. Yeah, I think
it was a
you're right.
bonus track on the video disc that I have. There's a video of them in the snow performing this song, and
Yeah.
it's a really good. I really like this song, and they did it really well in concert. One of my favorites, actually. I believe you started off not really liking this one, didn't you?
No, actually, I'm still not 100% comfortable with this track, I would have to tell you. I mean, the song came out as a single, obviously, but it hasn't been nearly as successful as some of the later tracks we will talk about, for instance, Lullaby or Love Song. I think it's a fan favorite though, so you're not too well off with that. But I guess I'm an outlier in this sense, because I haven't really liked that song. In fact, just a little story. One of the albums that it wasn't a studio album, but it came after this album. It was called Mixed Up, where they do extended and mixed versions of some of their hits, including songs from Disintegration. And I used to dislike this track so much that when I copied it from the CD to my cassette, I excluded this track, so I don't even have to listen to it. But I have to tell you, it has grown on me over the years. But it's not the strongest track by The Cure by any means in my view. you know, I think it's better than plain song, definitely. But you know.
Okay, I think we better speed up, otherwise this video is going to last forever.
Okay.
So Close Down is next, another keyboard-driven number with O'Donnell doing a good job. Again, I think they do this quite often in concerts, and then maybe I'll just talk about a few of these tracks, and then you can give your
Okay.
thoughts. So Love Song obviously was a big hit single, and a great video to go with it. Last Dance for me is not an outstanding number. Lullaby is obviously another great single, with the Spider-Man video, famous video, and then Fascinations Street is just an absolutely sublime number with great bass from Simon Gallup. So would you like to talk about those tracks?
Oh yeah, well, Close Down, it's an okay track. Again, it fits the mood of the album, but it's definitely not a highlight, I would say. Then Love Song is an excellent track, I would say. The melody is amazing. It's and it's got, I think, it's got the organ part, the bass part, and the guitar part, and each of which stands pretty strongly on its own, but they combined it into a single song, which is, I think, it's pretty amazing. Lyric-wise, it's rather simple. So if you just read the lyrics on your own, it's not, you know, it's not really sophisticated by any means. But the way Robert Smith sings it in his desperate voice, it just the song becomes so powerful. And yeah, the other thing is that a number of tracks from this album, but this song in particular, has been covered extensively by other artists. And the two that I think stands out is one by Adele and Tori Amos, but there's a bunch of others, and you can check them at whosampledit.com. It's pretty good. Last Dance, again, yeah, I think it's a powerful song with an unusual bass line and a good guitar tune, but it's an okay track. It's a good track. It's not a highlight. Obviously, Lullaby is definitely a highlight of the album, and for me personally, this track put the Cure on the map when I saw the video clip, especially to this song for the first time. And I mean, I knew the band before that. I knew of the band, but it was more like, I don't know, who are these people with these big hair and lipstick and what's all that about. But yeah, after a while, this song made me quite interested in their music. Now, fun fact that actually the American record company refused to release this song as a first single, because this was the first single from the album in the UK, and they chose Fascinations Street instead. And yeah, so the song reached number 5 in the UK, sorry, but only reached number 74 in the US, which is quite interesting. And one I'm just gonna read this out for you. One critic wrote that the 74 position isn't bad, considering it plays like a Tim Burton movie condensed into 4 minutes of eerie pop hypnosis. No one needs to hear this while driving a car. So there you go. I mean, that's one opinion, but obviously it just goes to show you the differences in tastes, perhaps in US and the UK audience. And yeah, one final note about this is that this song too has been covered by a bunch of artists, but I would like to highlight 2, one of which was done by Robert Plant and Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin. These are not guys who just cover anyone, I would say. So they did a little bit of Led Zeppelin style to this song. And the other one is that's a cover that I just recently noted on YouTube, and it's by, let me just quickly check. It's by a band called Grand Square Dance. Probably you never heard of them, and it's led by a French singer called Lena Boots. Well, I'm not sure she's French or not. I mean, her name sounds a little bit more English, but she speaks French probably excellently, and has a little bit of accent with in English. But so anyhow, you can check it on YouTube, and it's really amazing. The girl looks stunning. She's got an amazing voice, and she puts an extra layer to this song, and it's really enjoyable. So I suggest you check that out too.
Okay. Yeah, Fascinations Street, definite highlight for me. Fantastic bass, as I said. So it's quite a long album, this has to be said, and it's maybe suffers from a little bit lack of variety, perhaps. So these last songs kind of meld into one for me a little bit. I mean, it's a really good mood and it's sustained, but I don't have anything specific to say about any of these last tracks other than the last track, Untitled, has a great drum pattern from Boris Williams, which I think really lifts it. So do you want to talk about the remaining tracks?
Yeah, I would say that Prayers for Rain. Yeah, it's a desperate track, not that much my favorite, but it's a strong track on the album, I would say. The Same Deep Water as You is a beautiful, slow, sad love song. Probably great guitar, great melody, great lyrics. And I think it's actually a hidden gem on the album because it wasn't released as a single, and it's not included on any of their best of or greatest hits albums. And it's quite a long track, actually too, but well over 9 minutes. But I just cannot get bored of it. So it's nice and fast. So Disintegration, the title track, I think it's brilliant. It's got this hypnotic bass line that carries the song all the way, and then while Robert Smith rants about desperately about a relationship falling apart, that was probably doomed in the first place. Homesick is again excellent melody, I would say, a beautiful sad song too, and I think that's well, it's not the first song, but it's one of the first songs where they include the violin and piano as the main instrument on this track. Yeah, an interesting comment about the last one, the Untitled track. So Billboard wrote about this track that the album ends with a tune so depressing that Smith couldn't even give it a name. So I would say relatively to the previous outstanding song, this is probably a filler. It doesn't add too much of to the album, so it might have been easily left out or put it as a B-side. So yeah, and it's kind of I feel kind of a little bit of a discrepancy here because there's between the melody and the lyrics, because the lyrics are like really sad, and but the melody, well, I wouldn't say happy, but it definitely hopeful.
Right.
So yeah, so much about that.
Okay, I think the battery's about to pack up, so we'll wrap this up. So this has been The Cure's Disintegration. I think if you're going to pick a Cure album if you're not familiar with them, then you could do a lot worse than this one. And if you do know it, I'm sure you will agree it's one of their strongest albums. And thank you for watching. See you next time.